I'm Darcy Williams, and I am going to be presenting on money driven medicine. So, this is honestly one of the most interesting documentaries that I have seen. I am a really big documentary person, and the fact that I could watch a documentary on something that I'm passionate about and present is like very exciting for me. I've always been really interested in healthcare, and I think that it's a really, really, really large issue in America that needs to be addressed sooner rather than later because health is something that is super important and needs to be accounted for. Um, I just remember being in high school and arguing with my AP government teacher over the fact that healthcare is such a big issue and needs to be addressed now, but we could never agree on how we were going to solve the healthcare issue. And I think that's something that all Americans need to look at, and we need to come together and find a solution. And I feel like this documentary just gives a small look into the bigger issue that is the entire healthcare system of America. So I really want to start off by putting this into perspective. So a study from Forbes states that Americans spend 3.5 trillion on healthcare in 2017. That's 12 zeros. $3.5 trillion. That is so much money, and it's adding up to be 17.9% of GDP, which is actually insane because it shouldn't be this high. There's no reason for it to be this high. The real issue lies in the fact that 1/3 of these dollars that we're spending on healthcare is wasted dollars. And what that means is that people are being charged for procedures and new medicines that don't really need to be done. It's just a means for the hospital or the doctor's office or whatever it may be to be earning that extra money. There's new medicines and stuff that are replacing old treatments that are doing just fine. It's just the fact that they can charge more for new medicines and new procedures that they're going to because they want to make an extra buck. And that is something that is such a big issue for honestly everyone, the middle class, upper class, everybody. It's a very corrupt system. Okay, so what does this really mean for Americans? So this is such a big question. It's a very loaded question. It means a lot. So the ER is seeing more visits. And there's so many people that try to argue, oh, they're seeing more visits because maybe illegal immigrants or people who don't have health care. And what's really important about this is that these ER visits are not from those demographics at all. It is from the middle class. And why is this happening? Why is the middle class seeking out emergency attention, medical attention? And the really important thing is the middle class is seeking this out because they don't have primary care providers. And it's just such a big issue. They don't have primary care providers because there's a lack of primary care providers, and it's just so much easier to go see a ton of specialists and get care that way instead of just having a primary care provider and going on their merry day. I'll come back to that later though. So our rescue care is great. I mean, that's fabulous, but the struggle is present in our primary and preventative care. Those are two of the biggest lacking things that America seems to struggle with, and I don't really understand why, because it's so easy to educate and to prevent, and we're spending our dollars on means of innovation and finding the next big cure instead of preventing it in the first place, which the logic just does not make sense. So we kind of just live by this idea that we are going to pay for things rather than actually caring for patients. Like, we don't really think about the proper care that needs to be taken rather than like, oh, we're just going to pay for whatever is coming. Like, it doesn't make sense. We don't have a caring, nurturing type of system that we should have, which is not right at all and doesn't really make sense. So what do doctors think about this and in regards to our healthcare system? So all the doctors that were interviewed in the documentary really had the main concern of the quality of care that is given. The quality of care is not the same. Medicine is becoming this industrial system rather than this intimate, caring environment. It's really interesting. There was a doctor who was talking about how he misses how he can just sit in a room for an hour and talk with his patient and really get to know the issue and get to know the patient intimately and personally. And that's just kind of gone. It's thrown out the window with this industrial system that we've built that is the healthcare system. And we're just being told that 15 minutes is so valuable. Like, you can see 3 patients in 15 minutes. And you can't just sit there and spend time with your patients anymore. The whole intimacy and the care and rapport that is given is just thrown out the window. It's not present anymore at all. One thing I thought was really interesting that I included on this slide was that primary care is something that medical students are shying away from. The care that goes into medicine is being ignored for the sake of making money. They're being taught to specialize because specialization in medicine is going to get you more money. And there's so many students that were interviewed that were talking about like, oh, I've considered going into primary care, but finances are something that's really important to me, and I really want to make enough money, because they're going into massive amounts of debts to become doctors, but they're specializing in primary care is not going to bring them the revenue that they think that they deserve and that they want. That's a really big issue, because if people aren't being primary care physicians, then there's going to be none that people can go to, which is going back to the fact that there's more ER visits because people don't have anywhere to turn to. I kind of touched on this earlier, but Dr. Andrew Espinoza spoke about how his patients and doctors are not the only two in the room anymore. Rather, it's like the insurance company and the employer and everyone else that's involved in the healthcare system in the room. It's no longer a personal thing. It's no longer a relationship between the doctor and the patient. It's a relationship between everyone involved and everyone who goes into paying this bill. And it's really not an intimate thing anymore, and people are not getting the care that they deserve because of it. And it needs to be changed. It's just a very flawed system, and people are not getting the best care. So, where is America going wrong? Where is the key? And I think from this documentary, innovation, which is very, very interesting to say that the problem is innovation, because when you think innovation, you think that you're moving ahead and you're getting ahead and you're moving forward and being the best innovator and you're helping people by innovating, I guess I could say. But the issue is we're focusing so much on innovating that all of these expenses that are happening with this innovation is not paying off. It's just becoming more expensive for people to afford these innovations. So people are, more so hospitals and doctors' offices are just skipping out on this care that they give, that they originally give, and replacing it with more expensive things to get a higher bill and saying that it's more innovative. And it's not. It's just a means of gaining more money, like I talked about before. Also, a really big thing where Americans are going wrong is we are not being informed of what is happening, I guess I should say. There needs to be informed consent. And this idea of informed consent, where you're giving all the facts and all the information about procedures or medicines that you're receiving, is turning into informed persuasion. You don't really have a say in what's going to happen to you anymore. It's more of the doctor's office or the hospital is telling you. You can't just sit down and be like, whoa, wait. What's going on? Because the minute you do that, they get defensive and they're just going to gear you in the direction of more money and more profitability for them. It's something that's a really, really, really large issue, because the minute that you start informing people, the minute things are going to change. They talked about a study where when people were informed, 25% of the time, the care that is given was more effective than it was before they decided to have this informed persuasion type of treatment. We focus on finding a cure. I talked about this earlier. We focus on finding the cure rather than presenting the issue that is in the first place. So we're not preventing, we're not looking at our water supply and our air and how we eat. Instead, we're finding a solution to the negative effects of those things. We're not educating our people. We're not cleaning the environment or doing the right things to even prevent this happening in the first place. So that is also a root cause of the lack of a good medical care system in America. So what is the answer? To be honest, I was kind of disappointed. I didn't feel like there was an answer located within this documentary, more of a means of awareness that this documentary wanted to bring. I think something that we need is change, which is always something that everyone says. I feel like for every issue that we have, we need to get away from this idea of providing care from money. We really need to go in with the attitude of providing care for the benefit of the patient, like we had before, and it's less of let's find an innovation that's gonna cure this, and it's gonna be so expensive. We're gonna make so much money. Like there's a very corrupt system of money just corrupting the healthcare system and it not being about the health of the patient, but rather the large pocket and large paycheck of the doctor. I thought this is really interesting. The U.S. has the most expensive healthcare system chart that I have on the screen. It's just really interesting to see that so many other countries are doing so much better than us. We always try to be number one in America and have this idea that we're the best, when really it's so expensive for healthcare and no one's really doing anything about it. And it's really concerning because health is very important and we're one of the most obese countries and we're not doing anything to prevent it or to really stop it. And there's so much that goes into the healthcare system that needs to be touched that we're not touching. So I would love to hear what solutions you think that we have, because I don't even know where to turn to at this point. But I think it's something that I really want to pursue and continue to study, because it's a very interesting topic and something that's going to follow us forever until we take care of it. So I hope you enjoyed this presentation, and I want to know exactly what you're thinking and what solutions you believe we have. Thank you.